Hi, welcome back to Rabbit Hole History, where each week for 6 weeks I dive into a historical topic that I'm interested in. This is Season 2, where I'm talking about various topics surrounding ancient Europe. Last week we talked about Stonehenge and the mysteries surrounding it. Definitely go check that out if you haven't already. And this week's topic is also shrouded in mystery like Stonehenge. It's a topic that mixes real life, real people that existed, and mythology and the stuff of legend. It's a topic that is still practiced and celebrated today. Today we're talking about the Druids. So let's just get right back into it. Welcome back to Rabbit Hole History. So who were the Druids? Personally for me, I think I got them mixed up with literally the Dungeons & Dragons class, the Druid, and assumed it was a large group of people. They were all called Druid. But that is not the case. Druid is a title given to a high-ranking religious leader among the ancient Celtic culture. And also, contrary to popular belief, Celtic culture, at least in ancient times, stretched far beyond outside of modern-day Ireland and Britain. The influence and spread of ancient Celtic culture was pretty far-reaching. And that's why we have historic recollections of the people in the culture from very famous figures such as Julius Caesar. His is actually the oldest detailed record of Druids, and it comes from his Commentari de Bello Gallica, or his first-hand account of the Gallic Wars, which, little side rabbit hole, was a war fought by Celtic and Germanic people that were opposed to Roman conquest. The Romans won, which, as somebody named Shannon, I take a little bit personally, but anyway. Following Rome's victory in the Gallic War, Druid orders were suppressed by the Roman government and the religion was mostly stamped out. But references to Druid power and mythology have cropped up in examples throughout history, mainly describing them as magical people, sorcerers. So Julius Caesar's recollection is really the most comprehensive that we have of people that actually existed during the time. And basically, the Druids were a very high religious order among the Celtic people. They didn't pay tribute or taxes, and they were allowed to abstain from warfare. By modern terms and definitions, you could compare a Druid to a monk, where your job is pacifist and religious in nature, but very highly regarded group of people within the society. They had the authority to excommunicate people and make them social outcasts. It was even written that these people were held in such high regard that if they were to stand between two armies, they would stop the battle, essentially. They studied ancient verses and texts, philosophy, astronomy, and lore surrounding gods and religion. But it was all done very secretively. Most of the verses and lore that they studied had to be learned verbally and were only passed down verbally. There were no written records of anything. And Caesar wrote that it could take up to 20 years to learn everything. And like most everything ever, there unfortunately is a darker side to the Druids. Archaeological evidence shows that the Druids were known to perform human sacrifices. And it seems that they were done in the name of religion, and were performed mostly on criminals, according to Caesar, although innocents were allowed when criminals were in short supply. Classical writer Diodorus Siculus claimed that the sacrifices had to be made by Druids in order to appease the Celtic gods because of their connection to religion and the deities. Now, Julius Caesar claimed that these victims were actually burned alive in a giant wooden effigy, but other accounts and evidence shows that they were sacrificed in less outrageous ways or over-the-top extravagant ways. So maybe it's okay in this case that the Romans put a stop to Druid activity. But moving on, the core tenet of Druid philosophy is actually that the soul is immortal and reincarnates from person to person. And Caesar stated that this gave people courage and a different outlook on life to know that their soul would just go somewhere else upon leaving their current form. But because this religion and practice was banned by ancient Rome, it really was kind of stomped out. And throughout history, we really don't see a huge spike in interest until the early 18th century, where there was a revival in the interest surrounding Druidic practices, and where modern-day Druids are really rooted in nature and celebrating the earth, such as the solstices. Ceremonies like the annual Eisteddfod in Wales have persisted for hundreds of years, honoring Druid legacy and tradition. And in 1946, the late Queen Elizabeth II, before she was even queen, visited the ceremony, and they inducted her as an honorary bard. She lost the title in 2006 when they took away honorary titles, but the interest is still there, and its connection to ancient Druid practices is really interesting, how it's stood the test of time and people have been able to keep that history, even if it's just orally, alive. At least the parts rooted in nature and the earth, not the barbaric effigy part. Thank goodness. So I think that's where we're gonna pause the rabbit hole dive for this week. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about the Druids. Like most topics in this series so far, I'm finding that I know a lot less than I thought I did on each subject, and that there's a whole iceberg, or I guess rabbit hole, to each subject that we never learn or look into. So I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit. I hope you learned something that you didn't know before. If you did, let me know in the comments below. If I didn't cover something and you know something that I didn't find out, please let me know that as well. And I look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you again so much for watching, for making it this far to the end of the video. I'm on co-host now. I figured I would maybe try a different social media platform than your traditional Twitter, Instagram, whatever. So if you use that platform or are interested in using it, you can follow me at Rabbit Hole History. I want to keep notes there, maybe some discussion points. Maybe I can get into some conversation with you if you're so interested. Because I know this channel has almost reached its 40 subscriber special, which I joke, but I actually do feel like that's huge. I feel very lucky to have even the tiniest of audiences. So again, thank you for making it this far to the video. Thank you again for watching, and we will see you next week.